All right, well, thank you today, everybody, for being here. It's July 15th, and we're here on Real Talk with Ryan, and we have a very special guest, Japheth Smellie, right, Japheth Smellie?
However it comes out, but yeah.
Told us earlier today that he's been smelly his whole life, but now he's Smellie, and so it's better. Japheth and I go way back. He has a company called Synergetic Ops, and you and I have worked on several clients together and have really gone through some transformation in those clients. And one of the things that is so interesting to me, you're a man of principle. You're focused on the well-being of not just the owners you work for, but the staff that surround you and the people you work with.
That'd be awesome.
And are so kind but deliberate about your process. And I thought it'd be so great for the community with Real Talk with Ryan to hear your story and talk through how you actually do some of the things you do, because it's so difficult to duplicate. And I've always been so impressed with you as a person. Just a great stand-up guy.
Close,
So
yeah,
with that, Japheth, thank you for being here. We're all excited to have you. And so I'd love to start with the first question is, would you talk us through, just take us a quick introduction on you and who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive into a little bit of your story.
Sure. And thanks for having me on. It's always great to spend some time with you. And if you're impressed by me, you need to get out more, Ryan. So I'll just start with that. But yeah, so as far as my professional experience goes, I've been able to work for a variety of different companies in a variety of different circumstances, and navigating a corporate world, a small business world, owner operated, all of it is just a learning experience. And I think I've been able to make a success navigating through just about any kind of business environment. And so what I've done is just tried to take what I've learned in my own experience and apply it to small businesses that I consult with and say, hey, based on my experience, this is what you can expect from this kind of a management style or operational structure. And this is what you can expect if you go down this alternate path here, just based on my experience. Everything I know, I've been taught, either just through experience or through, great mentorships in business. I'm always looking to learn from others, and certainly you've been one that I've learned a great deal from, and others as well. And so I'm just passing that on to others in the hopes that it will help them as much as it's helped me to navigate through a part of life that takes up a significant amount of it. So you might as well enjoy it. And so going from an employee to C-level employee to now working on my own as a consultant has afforded me an opportunity to be more flexible with my time and be able to achieve a greater balance in life. So that's why I went independent is, the things that matter most in life is not necessarily what I do in the office, but outside of it. And so I just wanted more time to be with my family and other community interests. And so now I feel like I'm finally afforded that opportunity, and it's been great.
Thank you for that. Appreciate the story. This is Real Talk with Ryan. We're here with Japheth from Synergetic Ops. You mentioned earlier about wanting to help businesses. And you and I have had conversations around trying to identify those that are a good fit for you, right? Those that you have been able to help and that fit your time, your values, and that expectation. And in every scenario in a business, there's this tug around process versus the creativity of an owner. And I've been so impressed with how you've developed process around the owner, but harness what their objectives are. Talk to us a little bit about how you see that, how you do that, because that is so difficult to achieve the end goal that the owner has, but still put process around that. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. I think I think a lot of owner operators are afraid of creating structure because they think that, they're going to compromise their company culture, or institutionalize the business by creating all kinds of structure and process. And so, I can get that apprehension to embrace that idea. But, again, in my experience, creating a measure of structure actually improves the company culture. And you don't have to compromise its culture. You don't have to institutionalize the business. I think it's important that within structure and organization that you expect that life is going to happen to everyone, and you accommodate that on a reasonable level. Your team needs to know that ownership and management get that life happens. They're not turned off by it. But I think of it kind of like, under what circumstance would a child thrive more in a household? Are they going to thrive where their future depends on how mommy or daddy is feeling that day? Or are they going to thrive where there's some measure of predictability, some healthy routine, some expectations, some tools to succeed? Well, of course, the answer is obvious there. And I think it's no different in business, that most people thrive, or at least your A players will thrive in an environment where there's some structure and where their future is determined not by how the boss is feeling that day, but on how that employee is performing in relation to the reasonable expectations that have been set and the structures in place to help them succeed. So, you have to employ a measure of therapy in some cases with business owners to help them come around to that. And it's a process, one that I find greater buy-in when it's applied in small doses. So I never suggest making radical sweeping changes for their business, but just trying one thing at a time. And when they can see the tangible benefits of it, then you get their trust for the next phase of this gradual shift toward more predictability, more structure, and more security for everyone that works there.
Thank you for that. That's such great points as you think about tools that people can use in their business to improve the outcome. I had a call earlier today where that was the topic was, how do you have the people in the organization perform in a meaningful way without losing sight of what the business is there to achieve and why. You also mentioned a few minutes ago going from an employee to a C-level employee to out on your own. And there's always this conversation around entrepreneurs, right? And you're always an entrepreneur from the get-go, always from the beginning. And many people don't go through that evolution of, okay, I see where I'm at here, I've grown, now I'm here, I see where I'm at, I'm growing, and now I'm going to take that leap. How different has it been for you being out on your own, generating your own opportunities and helping businesses versus being an employee or even a C-level employee for an organization you work for? What's different or what's changed about that piece for you?
Honestly, not a whole lot has changed. I've been very blessed to never have to go job hunting. I think I've just established a reputation of just being an honest person who works hard at whatever I've been tasked to do. So if I'm an employee, then I'm going to give it the best I have. And because I've established that kind of a reputation, I've been afforded great opportunities as an entrepreneur that I haven't had to go chasing down. And I'm just simply applying the same principles and methods that I applied to myself as an employee and those that I managed, and make those suggestions for those that I consult with, at the same time offering to help implement them and kind of hold their hand along the way.
It's so interesting when you talk about that leap. How challenging was the leap for you? The process hasn't changed and what you're doing is similar. And you're right, hard work carries forward. But you and I had conversations before you even jumped out. We were talking about, well, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Here's where I'm at. Here's why. And there's circumstances that surround you that cause you to be more apt to take that leap because the opportunity presents itself. But there's still am I really jumping in the pool with both feet, and do I really know how to swim? So
Yeah.
what was that? What was that emotional process like for you to take that leap?
Again, it goes back to surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me, which is honestly not hard to do. So seeking out people who've been through that kind of experience and asking them, like yourself. So I can remember some really great advice that you gave me when it comes to, how many clients, for example, would be a good starting place before going exclusively independent versus kind of some hybrid. And I used a great analogy of having anchor stores like at a mall. And so you got to have your anchor stores, you got to have your Macy's and your Target or Sears or whatever, and then the rest will fill in. And that was great advice. And I think that helped me to realize when I was at that point. And once I felt like, okay, I'm at the point now where I've got my anchor clients, then I was comfortable making the leap because I knew someone else had already done so, and it worked out well for them. And then it's just a matter of, not second guessing yourself, not overthinking things. Just make a success out of whatever pursuit or path you're walking down. And so that's what I did, and it's worked out great thus far.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. This is Real Talk with Ryan. We're with Japheth from Synergetic Ops. And if any of you have questions, the chat box is open. You can use the Q&A as well. But if you want to text in any chats, I'll work them in. At the end, we'll shut the recording off and allow for live questions and feedback from Japheth and some collaboration. So feel free to use the chat box. When you're looking at businesses, and you and I sit in a very unique spot, and I know a lot of us on the call today help many business owners with varying degrees of our services and what we do. And as you see business owners struggling, and then, boy, in this environment, there's a pivot, it seems like every half day as new news comes out, and nobody's business exists the same. We might still be doing some of the same things, but in the way in which we just talked earlier that you've been on Zoom full time. That would be unheard of 4 months ago, that's what our life would look like. And so you've had to pivot. But when you think about, you're helping businesses identify what their barriers are and how to put process around them and how to advance, what are some of the challenges that you see business owners facing and you yourself have to face as a business owner? How do you help them through that? What are things that you're seeing in people, and what are you advising them in those moments?
Yeah, a couple challenges that stand out that I think are not unique to any of us is just balancing the demands on our time. That's a huge challenge. And I think one of the challenges that I've faced and other business owners face is balancing the time between chasing down new opportunities while at the same time nurturing existing relationships so that those don't suffer or feel like they're being neglected. And the reality is you have to make time. Time is never going to fall in your lap. It's a vacuum. And so I know for me personally, I live and die by the calendar. Everything has an event associated in my calendar, including the time that I set aside for life outside of work. So I make appointments with my wife, so to speak. Even if it's not a calendar invite I'm sending to her, that would seem rather odd. But at least I've carved out that time in my calendar so that nothing else encroaches on it. And so that's just an example that illustrates that I think for any business and business owner to be healthy, there has to be balance in the demands on our time, inside the office and outside of the office. And we have to carve out and safeguard that time in order to maintain a healthy work environment. Something else that I think is a common struggle for businesses is the extra time and effort that it takes to sustain structure and organization. Many business owners, when I get involved and start to propose the idea of creating more structure and more processes, they'll say, you know, we're just too busy, or we're all stretched too thin to tackle that. And I mean, I get that. I've been there too. But I liken it to getting an oil change, something I hate to do. You either make time to do it, or you defer that maintenance and only face much bigger, more costly problems down the road. So you have to figure out a time. And again, it goes back to managing your time to properly set up maintenance internally for your business so that you can sustain growth and create a healthier environment.
It's interesting in these moments. This is Real Talk with Ryan with Japheth from Synergetic Ops. You talk about calendaring and scheduling and being really, really focused on protecting that time. But when someone has you personally in front of you, you know, they've got that hopefully uninterrupted, but at least this connection personally where they see that you're there. And there's this effort to schedule people to get in the same virtual or the same physical space with them. It's how many of us used to do business. And in these moments, we're in this area of technology that allows us to be connected constantly through Zoom. And I have more meetings now than I ever had before. I'm not necessarily less productive, but it's strange how more connected people feel, or the more they feel like they can get to me immediately. Well, it's digital. You could just like jump on right here. You don't have to drive to me. We should have a meeting right now. And that puts intense pressure on those encroaching or infringing obligations for that personal time that's so important, or that time that businesses will say, I need this time to do the oil change on my business and to reinvent or some update. So how do you message that, or what tactics do you use to message that to keep some level of discipline in your own schedule as you have those kind of encroaching, infringing requests?
Yeah, good question. And I think, you know, it goes back to one of the first exercises that I do with a business owner, and that is, if they haven't created them yet, I encourage them to create a 6-month, a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year, and a 10-year set of personal goals, not business goals, but personal goals. And then after they do that, I have them do the same thing for their business to see just how aligned the two are. And I think it accomplishes a couple of things. Well, first, without a goal or you know, a destination or harbor, you're just adrift at sea. And so it helps owners to make tactical decisions based on short and, you know, long-term objectives rather than just going wherever the wind blows. But secondly, and maybe more importantly, it helps owners, professionals, to maintain a healthy perspective of their company, a healthy perspective of their employees, a healthy perspective of life outside of work. And when they realize why they're working and for whom they're working for, then I think, or at least I've been able to keep things in their proper place and not allow the demands of work to infringe on the things that I'm working to protect, the things I'm working to facilitate. And I think most people would respect someone who safeguards those things because they see the bigger picture. And another side benefit that I've seen firsthand is when owners can realize where work and life, maybe their family, fit together, they have a healthier perspective of their company, their little baby. And instead of viewing it as an extension of their ego, and viewing their employees as ungrateful recipients of their benevolence, they see their business and employees as something they're really grateful for because it facilitates the things that matter most in life. So to sum it up, I think really just trying to help business owners realize that no one on their deathbed wishes they spent more time at the office. And so keeping work in its proper place will help them to be better business owners. It will create more healthy atmospheres, and their families will view their work life in a proper way as well.
How do you help them as a business owner? They craft that plan, they get that message. And you're right, I'm thinking about that for me, and I'm sitting here saying, wow, I don't know that I've gone through that exercise where I've said, here's my personal goals and here's my business goals as a plan, independent of each other, and then look to see if they actually align. I mean, because I think most people tend to think about them in separate buckets. And I'm just in this moment thinking, wow, I don't think that goal actually aligns with this goal over here. And they're going to constantly be competing. That has to be something I resolve quickly, or else one of them is going to suffer and I'll be frustrated. And that's going to lead other people to be frustrated with me. How do you communicate or help the owners communicate that downstream? Because if the staff doesn't understand or see that, then they're not really pulling or rowing the same direction. So what tactics do you use to get that message throughout the organization so that they can actually contribute to that goal in a meaningful way?
I think it starts early, and honestly, it starts with me just being really selective with whom I partner with, which, usually at the first meeting becomes painfully apparent whether or not this person is someone that is going to buy into some of this, or if they're viewing their employees or other external factors as the barrier to their success. So I think, first and foremost, I have to find a client who's prepared to acknowledge that they might be the biggest obstacle to the growth of their company or to whatever internal cultural issues they have. And once I see that, okay, this person is ready to admit that, hey, I'm probably the one holding this back, and maybe can even be specific in articulating that, then I know that, okay, then they're probably going to embrace some of these changes, some of which might be radical. And then I think those become pretty easily discernible by the staff when they start to see the attitude of the owner, view them more as the benefactors instead of viewing themselves as the benefactors. I think it's a much healthier environment when an owner views their staff as the ones facilitating their lifestyle instead of the other way around. And I think those changes happen fairly quickly, and they're manifest in other ways. One of the most important and most difficult is to get the owners to take their hands off of the reins of some of the important functions of their business. And I think that once the staff starts to see the owner relinquishing some of the things they cherish the most for the betterment of the business, then, you talk about communicating something downstream. That's a big message, that the owner trusts us as employees to run their business. Hey, maybe there's hope for me yet.
Wow. How difficult is it to get owners to release? Even when they say, hey, I want to, hey, this is beneficial to me. Even when in their mind they understand the result, there's still that tendency to, I better catch that ball before it hits the ground, that plate before it breaks. How do you counsel them? And all of us on this call, several of us are owners and we're dealing with the same challenges. How do you counsel them to stay consistent and stay focused on that end result and not reach in and take it back?
Yeah, that is a challenge. And I think first and foremost, you have to set expectations. So you have to set the expectation that those that you're entrusting to manage some of the functions that you were managing yourself, one, they're not you. So you don't want a clone of you. That's why the business is kind of stalled out. You want someone who can do better. But to get there, they're probably going to make some mistakes along the way, just like you did. Mm-hmm. And so don't hold them to a standard that they can't reach. So expect that they're going to make some mistakes, but be there for them to help them learn from them and move forward and grow from them. So rather than setting them up to fail, they've set reasonable expectations that accounts for an occasional failure, but set them up to succeed beyond that. And I think owners have to quickly realize that often what strength they possessed that got the business to that point usually becomes the weakness that's holding it back, because they've they've taken it as far as they can take it, usually because they're trying to manage too many things. They're trying to be the visionary that looks 10 years ahead and at the same time manage the minutia of this function. And that's just not sustainable and scalable. So once they embrace that concept, I think it becomes a lot easier to, in practical ways, start identifying who thinks like an owner. And so who could we then train and equip to succeed in this core function?
Amazing advice. I want to keep writing down and say, I got to go do this. I got to go do this. This is fantastic information. And I'm so impressed that you're able to do that, because owners are not the easiest people to move. And even those that can self-reflect on, I'm the barrier, even at that point, it's still hard to get them to move. This is Real Talk with Ryan. We're here with Japheth from Synergetic Ops. Thank you so much for being here, Japheth. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll work them in, and then at the end, we'll open it up for live questions. Japheth, you talk a lot about selection of who you work with and identifying the right candidate. And we all would say, yes, absolutely, let's work with the right people. Let's find the right candidate. Let's find the right owner who's ready to receive this. But invariably, we are dealing with, we still got to take work in. And we still got to find the revenue, otherwise we don't support ourselves. What criteria do you use? What properties or characteristics does the owners have to have when you go through that selection process? Because all of us want to say, yeah, we want to work with people we like, and we want to work with people that are willing to change. And there's always going to be some barrier along the way. So what filter do you use to make that selection?
Yeah, I mean, I look for someone that I can perceive is being brutally honest and humble. I mean, I think those are really two of the key components, someone who's honest and humble. And so, I try to ascertain that by asking them to talk about themselves. And if they're prepared to be self-deprecating, not in just a, jovial way, but in a very specific way, asking them questions like, what is your biggest weakness as a business person, and how does that relate to the barriers to the growth of your business? If they can articulate that without grasping too greatly, then that tells me that's not the first time that they've had that kind of self-reflection. If I'm getting a sense that this is the first time they've been asked to reflect on themselves, then I'm probably going to, if I can, shy away from that. But if I can tell that this is someone who has looked inward first and foremost, and maybe just needs some help to take it the next step, then I see potential there. But they have to be honest, especially when it comes to admitting their own weaknesses, failures, and things that they would do differently.
Oh, great advice. Thank you for that. When you look at all the opportunities that come at you and look at the clients you serve, what is it that motivates you? Because I know there's an engine there. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be kind. I care about people being humble. I'm going to be humble. I mean, throughout this whole conversation and all the years I've known you, you've always been so humble about the contributions you make and how it involves other people. And those values are really important. And I'd love for you to share what some of those values are and what that motivation, where it comes from.
Yeah, well, I want people to be happy. And when I identify people that have, lofty goals that better others, instead of, just self-glorification or making lots of money, but they really want to be more fulfilled as a family man, for example, or to better their community. Well, I believe in those same things. And so I want to help people like that. I want to help them reach those personal goals and figure out a way that their business success can facilitate that. And that's my motivation, is I want to see people happy. And in my experience, making more money, getting more notoriety in business doesn't make anybody happy. And so when I can see that someone realizes that greater happiness comes outside of that, then hey, that's something I can get behind, and maybe we can help each other do that.
Excellent. Thank you. You talked a lot about family. Tell us about your family.
Well, my wife and I have been married over 18 years, and we have no kids, but we have a 10-month-old puppy who's at this moment recovering from getting neutered at the vet today. So it's a big day for him. And but beyond that, I've got a sister who's 5 years older than I am, and parents. We're a very close, tight-knit family. We all live here in San Diego, and the more families I interact with, the more I realize that the experience we had growing up was kind of the exception, not the rule. I mean, we all still love to be around each other to this day. So we look forward to family reunions instead of dreading them, which makes this pandemic a bit of a challenge for us. But yeah, we're very close, and try to spend time every other day or so connecting as a family.
Yeah, I want to dig on that a bit, because I've learned some things along the way, and some of my biggest failures have been in the failure to communicate what's going on in the business, or some business challenges at home. And not in the way that the only thing you talk about is work, right? In a much different way. But really miscalculating what the value of me is to the family unit and why I'm doing it, right? And there's this, I'm doing it because I'm trying to support the family, and I'm not asking you to support the family, I'm asking you to be present, right? And there's this back and forth. And when you go from being an employee to a C-suite executive to being on your own, those are some serious changes in time and changes to the way your work-life balance is, but also some risk. There's a big difference between being out on your own and owning a mall and trying to fill it with stores than just having a job that is relatively stable. How did you navigate that at home? Because there's risk on her side too. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, good question. And I mean, we operate as one. So, you know, we make decisions even in business as one. We talk about it openly, and I want to make sure that whatever decisions I make, my wife feels like she can speak freely on. And that way I know that she's going to support it. And when she sees that family comes first, and that's something I cherish and safeguard, then on the occasion where work might have an unusual demand that infringes on family time, well, she doesn't feel threatened by that, because she knows that's not how I govern my life. It's just an exception, not the rule. But it has to be the exception. And I mean, I've found that when I safeguard my priorities, then I'm a more effective employee. I'm a better consultant, because I have a balanced life. And the way I think and operate is not governed by emotion and extremes. It's governed by balanced thinking. And so I think I perform better in a shorter amount of time than if I were to give time devoted to my family or other more important pursuits to my secular activities. I think then the quality of my work suffers, which just means spending more time trying to compensate for it. So again, I go back to the importance of safeguarding the things that matter most in life makes you more effective in the time and effort that you spend in secular or business activity.
That's a really good perspective. I really love the way you frame that. It's easy to think, oh, I'll just trade this moment for this revenue generating idea or opportunity because it'll be worth it in the long run. And it's interesting to hear you talk about the trade-off is so much different and so much bigger than just the financial trade-off. But what that does to the energy of that dynamic and what that does to your quality of work. So I appreciate that perspective. I know everyone else on the call and anyone listening later will too. If anyone's have any questions, feel free to use the chat box. It's Real Talk with Ryan. I'm here with Japheth from Synergetic Ops. Japheth, last question, and Then we'll open it up to anybody who wants to ask questions of you and into live format. What's next for you and for Synergetic Ops? You're looking for great companies that you can help, but what's the next iteration? And we're all in these moments of change. What's changing for you, and what can we expect from you in the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've all undergone a measure of change already, and certainly my business has too. I used to always really cherish the time that I would drive to the office of whatever client I was working with and spend time there on site with them and with their staff, and creating and building trust. Now it's all virtualized, which presents its own challenges as well. And so, I'm adapting to that just as every other business is. But I think where the economic and social climate is headed in right now, honestly, I see a lot more opportunities ahead for someone that has the core values that I do, because they work. And this shift in the way we're operating business has actually created more opportunities for me to help other startups, for example, that I might not have had the time or the luxury to partner with. Now I'm working with a couple of other people that I enjoy working with, who have ideas and concepts that I believe in. And so it's been nice to not only partner with paying clients, but also invest some sweat equity into new startup ideas that, who knows, might take off.
Very nice. Well, Japheth, thank you so much. Loved your story. Always enjoyed working with you, and you contribute so much back to the community. Thank you so much for being here. Special guest, Japheth from Synergetic Ops. Japheth, thank you so much, and we look forward to what you're going to do in the future.
Thank you.